Welcome to another edition of Chaplain John with Chaplain John Sayers, featuring special reports and interviews with people doing kingdom ministry in Tulare County and beyond. And now, here's Chaplain John.
Well, good morning. This is Chaplain John, and I'm doing another one of these interviews or YouTube in conjunction with my podcast. So some of you that are hearing this on my podcast, which I put out on Saturday, I would say, now to listen to my other podcast, go to chaplainchat.podomatic.com. That's chaplainchat.podomatic, spelled PODOMATIC.com. I don't know why, but people tell me that if you put like or you subscribe, somehow it helps me out. I don't know how it does, but if you want to do that, go for it. Well, I've got today is kind of exciting because today is President's Day. And before I introduce my guests, I thought, what the heck? I think I'll share a few words from John Adams, our second president. He said this: our Constitution was made for moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate for the government. No, I'm going to read this right. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other kind. So if you're not a government that has moral and religious convictions, our Constitution's not going to mean a thing for you. I think that's what John Adams was getting at. Okay, I want to read one more thing. Our guest also wrote a book, and I'm going to introduce him just in a minute. I like this. The book was called John Adams Learning Academy, A Revolution in Education. And I like this, what he said, and then I'll introduce my guest. The leaders of tomorrow are among today's youth right now, thirsting for a kind of quality education that they'll need to make the world what it should be. If we fail the education of today's youth, we're failing the whole world. Wow. If we help them to get it right, to get the right kind of education, we hold a lamp of wisdom, hope, and opportunity to the next generation and beyond. Calling charter schools choice perhaps is the greatest civil rights issue of our time. Now I'm going to bring in, if it works, I'm pushing the omit, and I can even see what he looks like because we talked on the phone. And I see something going on here. I see in a minute, I see something called Colfax Ward. I don't know why that's saying that. Oh, Peanut Butter Dean. I should be seeing your face. I don't know why this is, oh man. Oh, wait a minute, now I see you. No, that's not you. Talk, Dean.
Hello, test, 1, 2, 3.
All right, wahoo, okay, we're good. I am so, because, we've talked on the phone. I gotta get a drink of water. I'm just so, this has been a frustrating computer morning for me. And my wife, who you briefly met on the phone, got it all going. And even now, and I wasn't sure, oh my gosh, is that you? And you're moving, so that is you. Dean,
I'm alive.
I know. And boy, we've talked on the phone and I'm excited. Dean, before I get into some questions I want to ask you, I have to share, and Dean, you're going to share with people how to connect with you or John Adams Academy, all that good stuff. But I actually did see that short, it's about a 9-minute and something video on John Adams. It was powerful. My gosh, a lot more professionally done than my stuff that I'm doing right now. It was great. And I saw the kids, I saw the emotions of the teachers. You're the co-founder of this But who was the other person that was sharing in that? It wasn't you.
Well, there was our headmaster, Heather Brown, and then my wife, Linda Foreman. Linda's
Okay, but I can't. This gal that shared said co-founder, and she had blonde hair.
That's my wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, very impressed. Okay, wow. Okay. Well, I suppose I'd have Gail do things like that for me, not me, because I just all the time. But I was so impressed, and even what she had to share, the passion she had, the teacher's passion. I mean, one of the teachers was even crying. She was so joyful to be doing that. The music program, which is, you were trying to get our good friend Paul there, but he's going to be moving, which you got hooked up with another John Adams. Everything. And the kids saying the Pledge of Allegiance, the kids, the excitement of the kids. And I'm going, oh, I want to enroll.
Isn't it magical?
Will school take a 70-year-old student? Will it?
Unfortunately we can't, but I can tell you that we can, in the sense that you can still engage learning in the classics at our age. That's the beauty of what I would call interminable education.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm going to keep engaged with you. I knew that but I'm just really excited. Okay, John, let me ask you a few questions. And I've got to move every stuff here. Why? Okay, you're the founder of John Adams Academy. John Adams Academy. That's why I gave his quote. But why John Adams Academy? That's not a bad question. Why?
Well, that's a wonderful question to start. And the reason is because about 10 years ago, maybe a little more, my mentor and professor came into the classroom one day and he said, "What have you done for your grandchildren?" At the time, I didn't have any grandchildren. And I thought, where is he going with this? And then he said, we need to do generational thinking today. We need to be thinking about tomorrow. And he said, the education that we do and the things we do today will impact the generations that come after us. And so I ask you again, what have you done today for your grandchildren? And as I sat and thought about it, I thought, well, I guess I'm doing maybe something really important. I'm getting my own education so that I can impact the future.
Oh, John, that's a great, okay. So what is the mission? What are the core values? And well, what the heck is your curriculum? What do you do there?
Okay, so what happened from that day, I just hatched the idea with my wife that we conceived this idea that we'd have a school. And as part of that, we found a board of directors. That's one of the first steps. You have the idea, and then you have a board you draw together. And we got together like the founding fathers and came up with a mission statement. And the mission statement is, John Adams Academy is restoring America's heritage by developing servant leaders who are keepers and defenders of the principles of freedom for which our founding fathers pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. That's a powerful mission statement.
Wow.
To summarize it, it's to get our heritage where it should be, back in the forefront, and to become servant leaders. And we don't seek to lead, we seek to serve. And then if we serve well, people call us to lead.
I couldn't help but remember John Kennedy's big thing. Don't ask what the country could do for you, but ask what you could do for the country. And that just jumped in my mind right now. Now you did mention a bit of what the curriculum is that kind of what the curriculum's working around? I guess so. I mean,
well, it is, and what the curriculum revolves around is what we would call the classics. People say, well, what's a classic?
Yeah, what are they? Yeah.
And when we think about that, I was taught by a professor, and I thought he summarized it well. He said, a classic has a great theme, noble language, universality, and it speaks across the ages. And it is the epitome, or if you will, it brings together the greatest virtues at the apex of any given civilization. And so when you think about this, you go, these are great books. It could be art, it could be music, it could be something as simple as maybe a tree or something like that. But what we're doing is we're engaging what we call the great conversation. We do this Socratically by asking great questions, reading great things, discussing them, writing about them, and getting educations like the founding fathers did. And that's called Socratic discussion and classical education at its best.
You know, John, Dean, I'm John, you're Dean. Now you're going to be embarrassed when I bring this up. But we're talking about great books. You wrote a book, and I know you're not saying, "Oh no," but I want to get your book. But share with us real quick about. Do you have a copy of the book? You can let us see it, or
yeah, I do have a copy.
Yeah, tell it really quick. Let's do a promo for your book. Yeah, and I mentioned that leading a revolution in education, and that's kind of in a nutshell, that's kind of what your book's about, isn't it?
Well, the book is about how this came about because we believe it came about providentially. And that's the word the founders used for suggesting that there was a higher person that brought this about. And it was for a purpose or a mission. It was sent to do something that wasn't currently being done. The idea is that all of us have a mission. And so the book is here to suggest that in our communities, there's people just like you and me that aren't happy with education. And I wanted to empower them and show them how they could do the same thing in their communities because we've already blazed the trail. And I thought, let me give them a path so they can pick up a book and change education where they live.
You know, Dean, this is exciting because, when I was in 8th grade, we had to take, in California, we had to take what's called an 8th grade constitution test. And the idea was, you prepare for it all year and then you take it. And if you don't pass it, the deal was you don't go to high school. And that was freaking me out because I have 3 older sisters. I'm, oh my God. And what I did not know was they're going to keep giving it to you over and over again because they wanted to get you out of there. Like, they may say, who was the first president of the United States? George. Yeah, that's good enough here. But I passed it the first time. But one of the things we had to do was memorize the preamble to the Constitution. And to this day, I can give that to you. But it just starts off that we, the people, it was reminding us that we are the servants. Here's what we, the people, need to do: establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, all that good stuff. And when you're talking about that got into it. Okay, it wasn't supposed to be. I want to keep going on. Okay, a charter school. Now this is kind of interesting. I was thinking, and how's that different than a private school?
Well, a charter school is a public school, and as such, it takes all scholars that come to us. They are accepted. So unlike a private school, we do take all of the children that come to us. And I felt this was part of my mission too. We wanted to have a school that would allow us to reach the main body, or what I would call the masses of the people. Because private schools typically only reach what I would call maybe the aristocracy or the patricians or the well-heeled or those that have money. But as we know, the virtue or the beauty of America was that America would be what we would call an aristocracy of nature, or natural aristocracy, where people that wanted to learn and wanted to get an education, they could discover their virtues, their special excellence to do something different and better. And that's what made America different. And that's why we felt like this sort of public school would be different than others, is that we would call from all people to come to us to learn the virtues of America.
You know, it's interesting. Cost. I didn't realize that because we have some really good private schools in our area. They're very good, and some faith-based, some whatever. And but there is a cost. Now, maybe they have scholarship programs and the whole gamut, but a charter school is more reasonably budgeted for, let's say a parent is having trouble. Well, my next question falls in, what kind of families are attracted to your school? How I would be attracted is I'm concerned what's going on in public education. I'm not sure I have the gifts of homeschooling, and we have, and what do I do with my kids? And maybe this is talking to me. I mean, maybe I'm that kind of family that if you have a difficult, that you want the best education for your child, but you're not gifted to homeschool. You can't afford a charter school like John Adams. Maybe something you want to explore. Are there other reasons why parents might want to look at you guys? I think that money would be a good thing for me too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things is economics. But let me tell you the biggest reason.
Okay.
Remember, America was founded upon ideas. It's the only country. Other countries were founded upon typically power or money, or maybe they were founded upon law, whatever it might be. But America was founded upon freedom.
Wow.
And I know that's a novel idea. Many of us don't consider that anymore.
Whoa, terrible.
But why not give parents their money? Because tax dollars are their money. They aren't the government's money. That's their money. It's our money. We're the shareholders. We are part of America. And because of that, we should be able to take our money and use it to the educational form that we find will give us the best outcome. So why not give private schools, if they want to attend a private school, money to do that? In other words, I'm talking about educational choice. Charter schools are a choice. They're a choice like any other school, except that we're publicly funded so that any scholars can come to us and we'll educate them. And that is the beauty of it.
Oh, John, that's Dean. I don't always say John all the time because
that's because it's John Adams Academy.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. There, very good. Very good. Well, Mr. Adams, why the emphasis on America and its foundings? Why that focus?
The reason is if you think about it, Pericles founded Athens upon culture, the Greeks. And we even have that culture today. In the Bible, that was called Hellenism or a Hellenistic culture. And Alexander found his civilization on power. And Alexander the Great was able to do so much in so little time because he was able to capture power and use it so well. And the Romans created a wonderful civilization, and it was based on law. And what America did that was so different was that we took those previous civilizations, some of each of them, and said, we don't want so much of one or the other. We want a balance. And the founders were able to find the formula that would allow a civilization to recognize power and then separate it into different branches of government. And that balance was unique. And as they did that, they did something that no other civilization has been able to do, and that's come up with the right formula for governing people. And ultimately, what we want is people to govern themselves. And that's what this education does. If they are educated well, they can govern themselves.
Take ownership, huh?
Yep, stewardship, ownership.
So, well, Dean, in our educational world today, there's a lot of commotion. Why is that? And disruption? Why?
Simply goes back to parents and children. Let me ask you a question, just rhetorically.
Okay.
Who comes first in education these days, if you think about it? And if you really think about it, you go, well, it's probably the teachers union. That's why we can't get all these schools open right now. And people are saying the children aren't coming first. The parents aren't coming first, and they're the ones paying for it. Who's coming first are the teachers' unions. And I'm thinking, we have yet to see a child die from COVID.
Yeah.
There may be one across the country, but it's statistically non-existent. And yet we're closing schools because of this charade, I'll call it. Asked one of my grandkids, I said, what's a charade? And he said, that's what we played the other night, where we pretend that something should be something else. I said, exactly right. And that's what's happening. People are so angry about this, and that's why it's disrupting education. And you're going to see more of that. What does that mean? That means there's going to be more choices coming there. And those people that come to us are typically homeschool parents, parents that are faithful parents that don't have the money to go to maybe a private school. They're parents that come to us because they want a good classical education that's based on true history and economics and the things that we all have prized in America.
Okay. Well, actually, I was being sold on this when our mutual friend, Paul Everett, was so excited that he took a tour of your place. And I want to do that too, just to see the kids, the respect the kids have, and the enthusiasm, the liveness in their eyes. He was so impressed. And you'll see that on the video. Well, if people are interested in getting a John Adams Academy in their neck of the woods, what do they do? Because right now, where are you at right now? Where's John
We're in the
Adams?
Sacramento area. We have 3 schools in the Sacramento area in the suburbs of Roseville, Lincoln, and El Dorado Hills.
And starting one in a couple of years in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which my friend Paul's going to be moving to. And when you heard that, you just got him immediately hooked up. Oh, yeah. Anyway, okay. So how do you get one in your area, our area, or whatever?
Well, I think the first thing is to decide that this is providentially something for you to do or make a difference in. And as a parent, you'd say, I want a better school in my community, because schools are the foundation to communities. And then I would try to gather together a board of like-minded people. And I've done a book. I'm not trying to necessarily sell my book. I didn't do it to make money on the book, but there is a formula here. I think you get a board, you come up with a mission statement, you come up with core values, which in our case began with appreciation of our national heritage and ends with self-governance, personal responsibility, and accountability. And between those 10 core values, the first and the 10th, you find that magical formula for creating a culture that will be enduring and that will be attractive, because parents want to have a safe place to send their children. If you ask people, why do you send your kids to John Adams? People will say, I just love the culture. I love the kids are so excited about what they're learning, and they come home actually wanting to learn again. And we actually read books, and we discuss them, and we write about them. And so these are all seem so I don't know, elementary, but they're really critical. And so to get that school, what you do is you follow that formula and you educate yourself, which is what I did first as to what was going on. I was on a couple of school boards. I saw what I liked, what I didn't like. I tried to make some changes. I decided ultimately you couldn't put old wine into new bottles. And so we made a change that way and decided that we would actually have to have new wine go into new bottles. And that's why we did the school.
You know, that's powerful. I had another thought coming as you're sharing. And maybe you've already answered it, but I can see how, and the book I think is going to help. And I know you're not trying to push the book. I think it'd be exciting and a lot of things to read. But the book will kind of say, if you're interested, here are some things you can do, And maybe the book's also going to answer, maybe you already answered it. But how do I personally get started on this? And maybe you've already answered it.
Well, I did, but not maybe as simply as it can be. And that is, how do I get started? the same way that I think I did. And that was, I didn't feel like I had sufficient education. And you started this podcast saying, can I come to your school?
Yeah.
What you find is that you go into education and you figure out, like Socrates said, and all those that followed him, that I'm not very well educated. I need more education. And as you become what you want to be or should be, suddenly you find that others are attracted to do the same thing. So your meals around dinner time are transformed from being about things or people to revolving around great ideas. And that's what happens when you're on vacation, when you're having meals. You're transforming yourself in the conversation, and so that your children desire something greater too. And suddenly you find yourself in what we call the great conversation, and that is, why am I here and what should I be doing?
Wow. You know, you already answered a lot of these questions. I'm going to ask one more, and I think you've answered that too. But it kind of, so you know, what's the most important thing I can do for my children and posterity? And it reminded me, we the people of the United States, in order to form our perfect union, establish justice for ourselves and our posterity. I guess this is kind of the wrap up. If you had a wrap up thought before we wrap this podcast YouTube up, John, what would it be? Dean, what would it be?
Well, I years ago, as a child in the fourth grade, I had a teacher that loved America, and that's where part of this came. And she had us memorize, like you did, things that were important. And she had us memorize the Star Spangled Banner, all the verses, and America the Beautiful, all the verses. And in my book, the last chapter, I felt like we need to bring this together. And in the song America the Beautiful, which Catherine Lee Bates did as she went out to the Rocky Mountains that year, she wrote that wonderful poem. And you first begin as a pioneer, if you will, or a pilgrim. You pilgrim an idea, just like the pilgrims came here. The idea was covenant, or becoming something that they wanted to have here that they didn't have in the old world. So you become a pilgrim and you leave to start a new place or start a new venture. Second, you then pioneer through that. And pioneering is tough work. And in the process of pioneering, because you're working so hard, suddenly you become a hero because people around you see you doing all these great things. And then suddenly you have equity or something to protect, which you end up being a patriot. So you remember it says, oh, beautiful for pilgrim feet whose stern impassioned stress a thoroughfare of freedom beat across the wilderness. And oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. If you look at that, that just, as you read it, you can feel it, you can see it, you can experience it. And to me, that was the emotion as well as the purpose that put me behind this. I thought, why are we listening to all these naysayers telling us that America is such a bad place? I'm thinking it's not. It's the greatest country on the earth. It has put forth and propagated that idea that I mentioned, freedom. Freedom.
Oh, freedom. John, Dean, now just go change your name to John. Dean, well, really quick, if people want to connect and know more about you guys, first of all, is there a phone number that they can call just to talk to somebody?
I would send them to our website, which is johnadamsacademy.org.
Okay, that is a great website. The first thing.
And the second thing I would have them do is they could go to Amazon and they could look up and they'll see my book there. They can read a little bit about it and they can do it over Kindle. It's very inexpensive over Kindle. And it's John Adams Academy, leading a revolution in education. And they could, third, if they're serious about starting a school, they could call me directly, and I'd be glad to talk to them. And my number is 916
Okay,
955 6363.
let's do that one more time. 916
955 6363.
Okay, I'm going to put these things onto the website and your phone number. Dean, this has been a great, and I'm so jazzed we finally got it all working right. It just wasn't clicking, and I'm thanking my wife for that too, to get this all going again. But Dean, what a joy. And I kind of want to be your cheerleader. But Dean, I want to thank, well, first of all, I want to thank you folks out there for watching. Okay, Dean, I set you
Chaplain Chat, baby.
Not yet. Oh, you blew it. Hang on a minute. I want to thank you guys for watching. And Dean, I want to thank you for being on
Chaplain Chat.
Yeah. Okay. Jeez. I hope I ended it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It says I'm still recording. Stop.